Hello, Redwall Survivor. Foxpen here with an episode of Foxpenmanship, a Redwall Survivor podcast, where Nara and I discuss the latest Mossflower Odyssey competition, Mossflower Odyssey 5, Heaven Sent. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Guardian category of top 30 apps. So, Nara and I are going to read the top 3 Guardian character applications, and we're going to give a little review of each character in a separate video. So, buckle up, keep your paws and tails in the cart at all times, and enjoy the ride.
Guardian, pre-deep. Perched high up in an ash, blending easily into the green leaves, a pair of frogs spoke casually in their clicking, creaky tongue. Keeper pre-deep, what is the fiercest beast you have had to face as a protector? The older frog kept her eyes on the small pool below, throat fluttering, nostrils winking. Probably the snake, she answered at last. Assistant Sedgwick's large mouth gaped. You fought a snake? That or the ducks, she amended. I don't know how you can compare ducks to a snake, Sedgwick shook his head in wonder. Ducks are far more destructive and dim-witted. A snake is quick to snatch but slow to swallow. It didn't take much to convince it to leave. The ducks, on the other hand, we used nearly all of our arsenal to drive them away and still lost half of the clutch. Sedgwick left out a soft whistle, and here I thought that Redshank was bad. Pre-deep cocked the spring-loaded wrist shot on her forearm as a dragonfly buzzed in, hovering close to the water's surface. Her other assistant, Brigitte, leaped from the foliage below, gulping down the threat with a sloppy crunch of wings. There are a lot of predators, Pre-deep sighed. If we didn't start out with as many eggs as we do, there would be no tribe at all, I'm certain. You're the best keeper the tribe has had in years, though. They say not only are the tads under your care more numerous, they're healthier and cleverer than previous generations. Pre-deep glanced at Sedgwick. You are pretty clever, Wick, but you should talk less and listen more. She held a finger to her lips. The other frog cocked his head. A quiet crunch of leaves nearby reached their round, tympanic ears. They crouched and waited until a fox limped out of the surrounding forest, stumbling toward the small pond. Sedgwick scrambled to load his sling when Pre-deep halted him with a cold hand. Wait, she whispered. He might not even know that tads are there. Foxes don't usually go after frog spawn. Sedgwick relaxed when the fox began lapping water thirstily out of his cupped paw, but both frogs jerked with surprise when the fox gagged and spat, rubbing at his tongue. Blah! What is this oily sludge? He spat several times into the precious pool and stalked off, angry. Alarmed, Pre-deep sprung down the tree to the earth below. What did he say? Sedgwick hurried after her, but Pre-deep was too focused on the nursery to respond. She put a hand into the water and noticed for the first time the strange sheen rippling across its surface. She looked then to the mouth of the small stream that fed the nursery, and was horrified to see a dark stain spreading slowly outward, filling the small sanctuary with deadly tendrils of smothering silt. She looked down at the useless weapons in her hands. Where is that coming from? Can we stop it? Brigitte joined the other frogs, staring at the foreboding mass. Pre-deep reached a hand deeper into the pool, bringing up a freshly hatched tadpole. It was too easy to catch. She rushed over to their camping supplies and found a clean pot to place it in, pouring the contents of her water skin into the pan. Her assistants added their clean water as well, but the tad's movements remained lethargic and weak. Pre-deep spoke to it with soothing trills and encouraging chirps, but after an hour the hatchling's slow squirms ceased. Pre-deep bowed her head low. Not even one, she croaked softly.
So next up on the Guardian list, we have Shahen, or it could be pronounced Shahin, because that is actually a Persian name. I'm going to be saying it Shahin because it's not written out phonetically. I'm assuming they want that little lilt there. Shahen is a 23-year-old male hare. Here is Shahen. The crypt was made of travertine tunnels, floors and tombs and lintels all laden with dust. The long dried and crumbled flowers in every nook belayed the dried and crumbled status of their occupants. Time had long since removed anything that made a scent. But that did not explain the presence of two hares facing each other down in one of the deeper rooms. Such a dirty word. Shahen scrunched up his nose. This is just archival work. Shut it, grave robber! Constable Etienne Hart left the emphasis dripping with anger, hanging in the air between them. Oh, come on, Eddie. Constable Hart! The hair-maid's sword moved closer to his throat. He chuckled. All right, Constable. So, August Clade had an illegitimate son in the ranks of his own brigade. At Ravensburn, the boy was injured, but August hauled him from the battlefield and was mortally wounded in the process. I didn't ask you for the tour. I ordered you to come with me. Potato to papo, I've got what I want. Shahen showed her the old oaken buckler, bronze rim and studding, strapped to his arm. Worth nothing to any beast but me. Then why steal it? Her voice cracked, and Shahen couldn't help but grin. Because it remembers, he said. August Clade is long dead, but his buckler remembers what it is to defend a life at any cost. She let out a massive sigh. It doesn't, Shah. This was cute when we were young, but now here you are, robbing a grave you stolen from the dead. Please, just stop. Shahen couldn't remember when she had elevated from fury to sobbing, but he held her anyway. Etty. There are laws now, Shah. If you break them hard enough, you die. He held her until she was breathing clean again. Etienne straightened up, put a paw on his shoulder, stared right into him. You can't depend on me letting you go when you pull this nonsense. Just run. I'll say I didn't see anything. Shahen yelped as something yanked on his arm. A thud and a clatter, and a dart fell from August Clade's buckler to the ground beside him, a dart made from wrapped canvas and a tipped bronze core, the kind used by the Valley Patrol. Etienne realized first. Run! She'll kill us both! Shahen grabbed her paw and ran, down 2 long corridors, round 2 corners and into an alcove, and there they caught their breath as quietly as they could. Damn you! That's Amira, Sergeant Clade! The only beast with any reason to follow me down here to make sure I was doing my job, and she caught me, right in the middle of agreeing to cover for you. A nearby scuff of a paw, and they ran again. Shahen dragged her round 3 distinct turns that should have sent them right back to Amira's path, but somehow didn't. Something crashed, loud and heavy. A bellow of rage came from nearby. I'm sorry, Etty. I didn't mean for this. Shahen held her paw. This was the worst outcome, wasn't it? I'll never be a law beast again. I hate you. But you don't. He stopped, took both of her paws, looked her dead on. I'm sorry. It never should have come to this. If you say no, I'll find a way to save you anyway. But Etienne Hart, will you run away with me? We can find you new work. I'll get a job, too, an honest one. I'll keep you safe. I promise on my life. Yes. Her voice cracked, and Shahen couldn't help but grin.
Guardian, Scheer Crest. Scheer Crest tore across the lower sky, her silver wings grazing the snow-capped treetops. Although the Merlin did not much care for winter, she appreciated the effect it had on the surrounding terrain. It made finding her quarry that much easier. Below her, a small mouse dashed from one tree to the other, stumbling every so often as the frigid winds buffeted it. Even from above, Scheer Crest sensed its desperation as it staggered forwards through the unaccommodating drifts. Catching an updraft, she rose higher. Her wings spread to their utmost as she prepared to dive. The young mouse cowered against a small tree as Scheer Crest landed. Ruffling her feathers, she cast a fierce glance down at the frightened creature. You shouldn't have run off, Bray. The mouse didn't answer. He was trembling. Scheer Crest moved closer, placing herself between Bray and the wind. When next she spoke, it was almost a whisper. It's dangerous out here. You could have been killed. Bray glared up at her, hot tears welling in his eyes. What do you care? You're just going to kill me yourself as soon as you get hungry. There was a hurt in his voice that belied his gaze, and Scheer Crest found herself at a loss for words. She extended a wing towards him, but Bray recoiled back further against the tree. Don't you touch me. Bray, I'm not going to hurt you, and I'm certainly not going to eat you. I promised you that. Bray hid his face, sobbing through his pores. And my family? Did you promise them? The accusation hit her with the force of a tempest, and it was all she could do to keep her composure. Her thoughts drifted back to their first meeting, how she found him hiding in his family's barn, and the horror on his face when he had discovered the remains of his mother and father. Scheer Crest hadn't been able to explain what had happened, and the guilt had only grown since then, devouring her as his parents had been devoured. She came back to the present as the winds began to swirl around them. Already the cold was strengthening its bitter assault, and Bray's trembling was growing more violent. There was no more time for gentleness. Bobbing her head down to the side, she pulled a length of vine from a pack wrapped around her neck, then dropped it at Bray's feet. This time, don't bite through it. Whether due to the cold or her commandeering manner, Bray sullenly listed the vine and wrapped it about his waist. Then slowly he stood up. I hate you. Scheer Crest pretended not to hear as she picked up the other end of the vine in her beak. Craning her neck, she looped the vine under the pack, pulling it taut through a small hole in the side. When she had finished securing it, she pointed a wing towards the north. There's a small town nearby. If you can curtail your foolishness, we should be there by nightfall. Unless you'd rather freeze. Bray clenched his fists but said nothing. Then, head bent, he trudged off in the direction she indicated. Scheer Crest sighed wearily as she followed behind him. He couldn't understand what she was trying to do, and he probably never would. His hatred of her would linger like the stench of carrion on the wind, and yet, as she watched him plod ahead, his tiny frame racked with anguish, her resolve steeled. She would save his life. She would make things right. And whatever the cost, she would pay it.